Welcome back to Connection Culture. And before we begin today's episode, I want to remind you to take a moment to subscribe. If you're listening to podcasts, we're available in Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any podcast platform. Or if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you are watching on YouTube or maybe Facebook, like this video because that helps this content get seen by others like you. And go the extra mile and share it because that will help, again, this content gets seen by other people. Well, today we are having a conversation with the man who's actually the producer of Connection Culture, Bo Snyder. Bo has been a videographer and filmmaker for years now, and he and I share a passion with using the power of connection, specifically the power of video, to create positive content and spread the message of hope and truth. That's what we love to do. And so we have a very insightful conversation coming up with Bo Snyder.
So I think it's insane that kids say they're so connected. No, they're not.
Yeah.
They're probably about the loneliest generation which is really, really ironic.
Very much.
You know, and that's a whole other thing.
So there was this interesting social study, and again, I heard this somewhere, and I can't trace it back to where, but basically the study concluded that people, that people are really, I guess, intended to really only be able to have about 100 connections total in their life. Okay. That can have meaning. Like we're not talking about like 100 best friends.
Yeah.
But you consider your family, your coworkers, maybe if you do go to church or something, like your mental capacity.
I was going to say,
that's what
people
I should
that
say.
You can cognitively keep up with and
mental
know.
capacity of like keeping track is like the limit of the human brain is around 100.
Interesting.
And so, but now we live in a culture where, you do have all of these digital connections.
Yeah.
And so, whereas our capacity is really, about 100 max is who I can keep track of. Well, now we're trying to keep track of hundreds and thousands of connections. And our brains are just not geared for that.
Can't do it.
And this is another argument for maybe any church leaders out there. We're not here to talk about church stuff, but this is an argument of why the value of a small group is so essential, especially if you're at a larger church. If you're at a church that's running, 500, 1,000 or more.
Yeah.
Well, again, people can't keep track of all that, and you can't just expect people to come into, just kind of like make it work and whatever. Like you've got to create these small group environments.
Yep, sure.
And so when it comes to social media, though, that's what we're having happen is I don't think social media, it's getting back to kind of what you asked earlier, like is this a bad thing? Well, I think the harm in it has been, these devices were invented, or, if you will, the iPhone, the iPad, they were created.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of handed them to people, handed them to kids and said, go have fun. Mm-hmm. And I never forget when the iPad first came out, I actually it was 2010. So it's been over like 11 years ago. Yeah. I went to the Apple store to look at one. Because back in the day when you could go to Apple stores, that's what you did.
Right.
Hey, when there was something new out, you'd go to the Apple store and you could hold it, look at it, play with it, whatever. Right. So I did. I went and I was looking at it. One of the Apple associates walks up to me and he says, hey, can I help you with anything? Whatever. You got any questions? And I'm looking at this iPad. And of course, the original iPad, very primitive compared to what they have now.
Yeah, sure.
But I just said, this feels like a big iPhone. And he said, yeah. It's just it, and I said. So I asked him. I said, "What is the purpose?"
Really?
And he looked at me as the employee at Apple. He said, "We really don't know, and we're hoping the market tells us."
No way.
He looked at me and said, "We
That's
are waiting.
funny.
Basically, we're waiting to see.
We're waiting to see how
what the
push
consumer
this?
does with it before we really determine what it is." Because I mean, literally, the first iPad. I actually have one somewhere around here.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you got one somewhere. Generation 1 or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
It is literally just a big iPhone. I mean, there's just it's a bigger screen. Everything's the same.
Right.
And now there's slight discrepancies between the iPad and iPhone. They kind of continue to go, in different directions in terms of what the purpose is. But I think that was the problem. Is we just handed people stuff and said, "Figure it out."
Right.
And then we and on the other side, it was really cool because it's kind of like this creative canvas where as a creator,
I don't know if that's like, when he said it, he probably didn't realize this, but I wonder if that's actually like genius. Like, we're going to see what the world does with it, and then we're going to, you know what I mean? It's just kind of funny to think of it that way.
And then on the one side, it is awesome for creators and innovators.
Oh, it definitely is.
Because now you got these new platforms, these new devices, and like I said, internet technologies where you could just really figure, and that is where we got the advent of things like, YouTube, really became popular. Podcasts have become popular, social media, and these really cool things that honestly for us are now just like, hey, part of everyday life. And but I think that was the main problem was and when parents just hand a device to a child and say figure it out. And you know why a lot of them do that? Because a lot of them don't understand it themselves.
Right.
And this is it. I do love what Proverbs tells us. It says you need to get understanding. Right. You need to understand. Yeah. And the most foolish thing we can do is say, oh, nope, and you can't know everything. Yeah. I mean, even me who considers myself a techie guy, there are certain things like Snapchat. Man, I don't understand Snapchat at all. I've tried. I don't get it. Right. I've tried whatever. And like even TikTok, man, it is all this different stuff you can do as far as whatever. Like, man, I don't understand fully all of it, but you have to at least try. You have to say, hey, I at least need to get a basic understanding because I guarantee you, your child is going to figure it out. They're going to learn it. And they're going to know it better than you. But you've got to know something. You can't just say,
dude,
hey, kid, run.
I have nieces and nephews that they will ask for my iPhone or my brother's iPhone or, whatever. And they know how to open the apps and pick their little shows. And it's like, hey, here you go. And once again, we think that's crazy. But once again, that's their world. Yeah. They know how to do stuff. And as sad as it is, I actually got a stat here. 75% of teens do something to hide their online activity from their parents.
Yeah.
And it's probably even higher.
Yeah.
I think that's even a conservative thing. So for parents out there, don't turn a blind eye.
No.
Because you could take the approach of, oh, well, I just don't understand, whatever. But we know there are things you can do if you take the time to help with that. I mean, even though you don't get it, you might not understand it, you can put things in place to monitor, to, whatever. I mean, we don't have time to go into all that. But that number is enough for someone to say, okay, I need to be aware here myself.
Yeah, exactly. And that is something, like you said, we don't have the time to go into all of that right now. Not today, but we want to.
We want to. We do.
And here's the truth. Right now, if you are listening or watching this, then you are probably, if you will, one of our first. As far as the audience. So thank you for watching and listening. But if you want anything we've said thus far, and you're like, man, I want to know more about how I can handle that, how I can manage that, how I can prevent that, we need to hear from you. We need you to you can honestly, the simplest thing is probably just shoot us an email, media@mustincrease.com. Or if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, drop a comment. I usually throw that out at the end of episodes. Right. We have it, but it's so important because I can almost guarantee you right now, if you reach out to us about it, we're almost guaranteed going to cover it.
I was just going to say, because this early on, we can have people help us shape what we talk about.
Exactly.
Because we want to know. You know,
so we want to hear from you because we've still got much more to cover. Oh, man. Even in this content series.
Where you want to go from here? Once again, we got so much stuff. It's great, this is kind of just a bulk.
So here is the truth. I think we've done enough to talk about how I guess if you want to say the potential pitfalls of media and understanding. So I think we need to get to asking us this question though: is media in and of itself talking about the media, the like I said, the video, the audio, the written
channels,
content. These outlets, are they good or bad?
Ooh.
And the answer depends on a lot of people. Again, I think the tendency of a lot of people is to say, well, it's bad.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the truth is that not immoral, amoral.
With an A.
With an A.
Yes.
Amoral. And that just simply means that it lacks moral sense. It's an inanimate object. So one of the greatest illustrations I've heard, I think it comes from Dave Ramsey, because he talks about it with money.
Yep.
It's one of his earlier financial piece ones.
Yeah, this is a good
He's
one.
got this brick,
Yep.
and he's walking around with this brick, and he said, "Hey, check out this brick. Is this thing good or bad?" And everybody's just going, Well, he said, if I take this brick and I go and I throw it through a window, and I can use it to vandalize properties, break windows, break through car windshields.
Yeah.
I could even go as far as you take this brick and I could beat somebody in the head until they're dead.
Yeah.
I could make it, it could be really bad, but I can also take this brick and a bunch of these bricks, and I can build a beautiful house or a beautiful building.
Yeah.
And I can use it to build something positive.
Right.
And his application, obviously, Dave's the money guy.
Sure.
So that's what you can do with money, but that's what you can do with media.
Right. I remember him saying, I think he said about the brick and the money, he says, the money doesn't care. The money's neutral.
Exactly.
It can sit there or do something good or something bad. So it's all in the hand of who holds.
Because money, that is another thing that gets a bad rap. People, money is bad.
Oh, yeah.
But scripturally, it's not money that's bad. It's the love of money and the obsession with it.
Consume, saturation,
exactly.
yeah.
And I would say that's the case with media. It's the obsession with media. And so the problem is that it saturates our culture, and that it can be dangerous, but it can be used for good. So this is where we get into some practical ways to apply practical approaches to how you approach media with your life personally, with your family, what you should do. So here's the first one, is one of the most important. So I want to go ahead and talk about this.
Yeah.
Filter is better than shelter. So it is better.
Say that again. Say that again.
Better to filter than to shelter.
Good. Solid.
And this one's very, very personal to me.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of people, I say a lot of people, but a handful of people that are close to me, that they lived a sheltered life. And they lived in a home in a church that took an approach of saying, well, you know what? There's a lot of bad in this world, so we're gonna just shelter you. You're gonna live under a rock. You're never gonna be exposed. As much as within our power, we're never gonna be exposed to the bad of this world.
Yeah.
And the truth is that right there, that idea that you can completely shelter your child, well, that is a complete myth. It's impossible. You'll never do it. We're going to get right back to our conversation here in just a moment, but I wanted to take a break so that I could let you know a little bit more about Connection Culture, and specifically the company behind Connection Culture, and that is Must Increase. Must Increase is more or less a creative network that seeks to create content much like Connection Culture that is about positive values and provides helpful insight. And we've done work and helped churches over the years and families, and that is what Must Increase is all about. It's about creating positive content in a society where it seems to all be all about the negative. Well, we've got actually some free resources for you and your family. And this includes some downloads of some of the past films that we've made. And we've also got some resources there. We've got a guide to help you navigate through media, kind of some ways that you can, some practical insight, practical steps that you can take to be a better consumer, to connect in a more effective and positive way. All of this is free, and we want you to have it. All you got to do is head over to mustincrease.com, and you will find a place where you can download that. I'd love to send that right over to you. So just head over to mustincrease.com and sign up to receive these free resources. And that way you can start having a part in using the power of connection for good. And of course, seeing it increase truth and inspire hope in the lives of others. So head over to mustincrease.com and get your free resources today. Now, we'll get right back to our conversation. So what happens when you take someone and you put them quite literally under a rock? I mean, talking about a literal, let's say this. I mean, what happens? I remember, when I was in elementary school, I was like 10 years old. I went on this field trip to a cave. Mm-hmm. And as you go deep into that cave, and it's dark in there. Obviously, they had some lights up. It's very low lit. Yeah. And so we toured the cave or whatever. I remember we went to the deepest, darkest part of that cave, and I mean, so dark you can feel the darkness. I mean, it's crazy.
I freak out by it.
Yeah, it was pretty. I remember it. It was crazy. But when we came back out that cave, and we've all had these experiences before, that light felt so bright, but at the same time, it just hit you all at once, and you were kind of fascinated though, because it was almost like, oh man, look, everything looks so green, all the trees look so green and everything looks so beautiful, and you're so fascinated with it. Yeah. And when we shelter people, that's what we're doing. We're blocking out all the, and I know usually light is an analogy of what's good, but in this case, it's actually going to be what's bad. Yeah. We block out all the potential threats, the potential harm, or we can't see it. And then what happens when we finally come out from under that rock, because one day your kids are going to leave, they're going to be out on their own, you're exposed to this. And like I said, it's kind of shocking, but it's fascinating. Yeah. And everything seems so colorful and so attractive. And so you can't just shelter. Yeah.
Because if you want all of it, when you come out of that cave, you want to take in all of it.
Yeah, you've got to filter. And so how do you do this? Okay, well, again, man, we could dive into all this. Yep. So here is something, though. We talked about stories. Mm-hmm. I very understand, and I'm about to ruin every movie for you out there. So if you honestly, once you grasp this concept of the breakdown of a story in the way that we're going to teach it here, you literally, if you really grasp it, you're going to notice it in every movie. I enjoy a good movie.
I do now.
But I notice it in everything.
I know it.
And so I always
think of you every time.
I know. Yeah. So anyways, there are these different elements of the story, and there's a lot. There's actually, you could break down, depending on what framework, there can be 7 or more, but I'm just going to look at 3. Okay. There's 3 main ones. There's the character. Yep. So that's the main hero, the main person, who is your character. Then we've talked about the conflict. Yeah. Okay, like we said, there is no good story without a good conflict. There's no story till a conflict. And then there's the outcome. And in a good story, the outcome is victory, or something that is better for the character. So if you look at the Bible, well, a practical example is David and Goliath. Well, David is your main character. Goliath represents your villain and your conflict. Yep. And then the outcome, well, David wins. Okay. He's the victor there.
This is side note. Obviously, that story would not be awesome without Goliath in it.
Exactly.
Isn't that funny? It's just like you have to have that in there.
What if it was just David went to the battlefield and he delivered.
What did he win? Who did he win?
Yeah. So that's you have to have conflict.
You have to.
You look at to stay with the Bible, the parable of the Good Samaritan. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's the traveler, he's the character, then you have the robbery, the people who come by and they beat him up, they mug him or whatever. Right. And then your outcome though is the Samaritan. He comes and he saves him, and he helps him. Let's fast forward. Let's get out of the Bible. Let's go to modern times. All right, we've talked about Batman, Bruce Wayne earlier. Yep. Okay. So yeah, there's not just Batman and Bruce Wayne as the character. He's a very important part of the story. You have to develop that character. But then there is a conflict, and that conflict comes in a lot of forms and starts villains, but probably the most popular is the Joker. Mm-hmm. Dark Knight. Best superhero movie ever. Ooh. Christopher Nolan. Shout out.
We could just stop right there.
I know. Awesome movie. 2008. 2008 is when that came out, man. It's been a long time.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's insane. But it's still just as good. I want to watch that.
Yeah, I guess it is.
It's been a while since I watched it. But the Joker. And then the outcome is the Joker's defeated and Gotham City is saved. Yeah. And so we kind of said this in an earlier episode, but when you look at some of these modern, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, whatever, your character is your kid, your teenager. Yeah. Well, then your villain often comes across as your conflict is often created by the parent or the teacher.
Yeah.
So it's the parent who is being, oh, you just don't understand, and he's just being stupid and not letting the kid do something, or the teacher, and they're sneaking behind their backs and doing it. And the outcome of that story and the victory is actually this defiance of authority.
Yeah.
This happens. This happens pretty commonly. Now, this is something, again, an example of filtering. Is you seeing this, you watching this, and we could talk about practical tools to filter. Remember the old, what was it called? The little box that you got and you plugged it in.
Oh yeah, what was that called?
Guardian. TV Guardian.
TV Guardian?
TV Guardian. Yeah.
Is that still a thing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think technology is way beyond that now. But
yeah.
there's VidAngel. VidAngel's out there.
VidAngel's
Actually, that is one I recommend.
Okay.
It literally filters for you. Like you can pick out it'll filter out language on a certain level. It's pretty cool. You can go in you can literally just filter out like one word. You say, I just don't like that one, curse word. You can filter that one out and let all the others through. But I think that's a good example of what filtering should represent. You get to decide. You get to decide what you filter. And I am not condoning that you just let your kid watch anything. There are certainly things, and I think a lot of this comes down to their age. Yeah. My 3-year-old is not going to watch stuff that I might allow her to watch when she is 13.
Yeah.
And so it comes down to that. But you get to choose.
Yeah.
You get to choose, how you respond to that. And here's another kind of, I guess, more modern example that's going to analogy makes sense to me. Maybe it doesn't make sense to anybody else. But so we are in the midst of this pandemic. Hopefully we're on the other side of it. Hopefully we're on the anyways. But we have recently seen, and again, we're not going to talk the politics of it. I'm just going to state the facts, what's happening. We've recently seen these governors start to reverse their stay-at-home orders. And they're starting, California, Michigan, New York. Those are kind of the big three that were kind of infamous, if you will. They're starting to reopen. They're starting to open up their economies, and they're not forcing people to shelter anymore. Because what did they realize? There was no data showing that people actually sheltering in place and being locked into their homes was doing anything to actually prevent the spread of the virus. Yeah. It was happening, and these states their numbers were still skyrocketing. Yeah. So sheltering actually did nothing. Actually, forcing people to stay home did not do benefit in any way. Yeah. What has seemed to work has been the states that say, we're going to keep our economy open, but we're going to put some safety measures in place. We're going to encourage you to social distance, and in certain places wear masks, and these certain things that, they're small. They might not seem like but if these, they're basically saying you need to filter it. You need to just be wise in the way you approach it. And that's what you got to do with your kids is you've got to filter is better than to shelter. A couple of tools that like I said, I talked about VidAngel earlier. That's great. That integrates with like Netflix and I believe Amazon Prime as of now. Okay. And like I said, you basically integrate that in, and then you're able to filter out language, certain scenes, violence, things you don't want seen, and it just kind of skips those scenes. It's pretty cool. I've used it before. Okay. It works very well. A couple things for the internet, Covenant Eyes and Ever Accountable. These are kind of similar. Basically, you install them on your computer, on your phone, and they filter out the potential adult content. Like I said, a lot of this, what's nice now is that's built right into the iPhone. So if you're a parent, you don't have the adult content, and nothing else, you don't have the adult content limited on on your child's phone. I highly encourage you to do that. And again, if this is something you want us to dive more into in the future, let us know, and we'll dedicate maybe an episode or series of episodes to covering stuff like that. So filter is better than shelter. It's something we said earlier in an earlier episode, so I'm actually not going to spend as much time on this now, but
it's an incredible concept, though. Yeah. I mean, just grasping that and realizing, like, wow, we could unpack that even more, as Craig Rochelle would say. Yeah. Unpack that even more.
Hey, Craig, you're welcome to podcasting. Yeah.
Just call us, Craig. We'll get you in.
You're in immediately.
No, but the big Craig Rochelle fans.
Yeah.
But no, just that concept is fantastic.
Yeah. So filter is better than shelter. And then, like I said, this one I talked about in an earlier episode, so I'm not going to spend as much time on it, but to pull media is better than push media. So we talked about how push notifications or push media is media that gets pushed to you.
Right.
So it's something that the, like I said, the app creator, whether it's social media, a news outlet, a sports like ESPN or something, whenever something happens, a new story, breaking news, a new, somebody score, the lead changes in a ball game, or you got a /comment on social media, boom, it pushes it right to your phone.
Don't let them control that.
Exactly.
Don't let people push more on you than you need.
Here's what it all comes back to. You consume media, don't let media consume you. So pull is better than push.
Sure.
So minimize those push notifications. Go into your setting right now here on your phone, and then you can go into the settings app and you scroll down right here. I mean, it's like just a few items down, notifications, and it gives you a list.
I think it goes through all the apps you've got.
Yeah, it does.
It does. A little push or slide.
Exactly. So what it's going to do is when you get to that, it's going to actually give you a list of all the apps that you have.
Yeah.
And I'm actually... anyways, it gives you a list of all of them you have, and you can actually go through and you can disable notifications or limit notifications. You need to do that. It's a very quick audit to do every once in a while.
Yeah.
Even if you say, well, I never allow notifications when I download an app, it's amazing what kind of slips through and what happens. So every once in a while, go in there and, like I said, just go into the settings, do an audit there, scroll through, and turn off push notifications to apps. Take it a step further, delete apps that you don't need.
Yeah,
that you're
you
not
need to do
using.
A purge once in a while. It's a good idea.
Exactly. And the thing is, Apple in their latest iOS, actually, I feel like they did this on purpose so that you couldn't purge as much. They did a new thing where you can actually more or less apps that you're not, like you can set up your phone to where you've got these apps that you use are what you see, but then everything else is just kind of in this app library thing. And they kind of just get real, you can just download apps and forget about them. So for a lot of reasons, for one thing, it'll free up some storage on your phone.
Oh, that's true.
But if there's apps you're not using, delete them, get rid of them. I go as far as to say, if you really are struggling, if social media seems to be your what's consuming you, here's my challenge. Find at least one platform that you're spending too much time on. Delete the app from your phone. I'm not telling you to get rid of your Instagram account. That's not the solution. I'm not saying you don't need to be on Instagram. In fact, I would love for you to follow us on Instagram. Check out Must Increase on Instagram. Follow us. But delete the app from your phone so that you can have, so that you can, like I said, and then you'll be surprised how freeing that will be for you. Well, thanks again for joining us for this episode of Connection Culture. I do want to remind you to take a moment to subscribe, like, share, let others know about this content. If you found it helpful to you, then share it because it will be helpful to the person you share it with. And now is the time to be sharing your feedback and your thoughts and your questions with us because it will really have a huge part in shaping future episodes. There's a very good chance if you share feedback now, we will be able to cover it in some way or another in the next few episodes. So you could do that by leaving a comment on YouTube or Facebook. You can leave your thoughts in a rating or review there on Apple Podcast, or you can reach out to me the old-fashioned way. You could shoot me an email. My email is luke@mustincrease.com. That's luke@mustincrease.com. Let me know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. Connection Culture is a production of the Must Increase Network. The show is produced and edited by Bo Snyder. Show notes are developed by Nash Mead. Executive producer and host is myself, Luke Clayton. And until the next episode, I do want to remind you of this. Get involved with using the power of connection for good. How do I do that? You say, well, how do I do that? Well, be nice on social media. That's a great start. But also get behind the things that you believe in. You see someone that's putting out content that you believe is valuable, that you believe provides positive inspiration. Share that with others. Like we've said, share these episodes with others because this seeks to be positive content, helpful insight. We want to inspire hope and increase truth in the lives of others. So get behind what you believe in and keep this in mind. When you do that, you are going to find fulfillment, so much more fulfillment because you will have been a creative contributor rather than just being a mindless, constant consumer. We'll see you next time here on Connection Culture.